What's going on, everybody? Chris Beans here with Bowlers Rant, and today we're going to talk about the 2020 report from the USBC about open ball hardness testing, and in particular about urethane balls. Yes, there's been a lot of brouhaha brewing around on the internet, and everyone's been talking about illegal balls, in particular illegal hammer urethane balls. But what's really interesting is that in this report, which is broken down in 4 sections, we're going to go through each one, it is not specific to any manufacturer, but rather to urethane in general, right? So the USBC has taken a look at all urethane balls, and they've done a hardness study, and we're going to talk about that. So first up, we're going to talk about the overview background section. We're going to put this on the screen. So what they talked about here is that all USBC approved bowling balls must measure at least 72D for hardness at the time of manufacture, okay? And the USBC spot checks against this number, and typically balls come out, harder than that. But what they also talk about here is that over the last 3 years, across the population, again, of urethane balls, is that recent releases, they start closer to the 72D specification out of the box, and that they also talk about that they measure softer immediately after use. They did not have any data showing to what extent use over time causes urethane to be softer. So that's really interesting, because that's saying, hey, we're not sure why this is happening, we just know that it is happening, okay? So next we're going to talk about the section called US Open test results. Okay, it's on the screen. And the results from the US Open field show 109 of 300 balls, used balls tested, about 36% measured under 72D. 36%, that's a lot. And the balls measuring under 72D included balls from multiple manufacturers. And they underline this, and they say the data indicates some urethane balls are progressively getting softer with use over time. It's also not limited to any one manufacturer. They have a technical expert, I'm guessing that's one of their scientists, and they are saying basically that use over time is causing balls to progressively going softer. The data also validates the USBC's 2019 hardness research report, which concluded urethane balls will measure softer immediately after use, and that, again, over time. So they kind of just restate the same thing over and over. And the data indicates the effect of becoming softer with use over time eventually levels out, and the urethane balls hardness stabilizes. So let's talk about that. So they're saying, hey, we know that over time it does become unstable, but eventually it does become stable. It's not related to any one manufacturer, but all urethane balls. So the next section, balls outside of specification for US Open. It's on the screen now. USBC ball check at the US Open identified 2 balls that had fallen below the minimum 68D allowed in the US Open tournament rules. USBC had removed these balls from competition as they are required per the USBC Open rules. Each of the balls tested under 68D had more than 2 years of use. That's important. It's not like brand new equipment. Again, it's not limited to a batch. There is no data or evidence to indicate any player tampered with the ball, and there's no reasonable way for a player to know that the ball was progressing past the hardness specification limit over time, other than regularly testing the ball through a USBC test process. That's important, because there's no way that your player at the USBC Open, US Open, or at the at any tournament is going to know if the ball is getting softer or not. Okay, you'd have to go to a laboratory or get with the USBC and get whatever the approved testing method is, and that's just unreasonable. So it's good that they're testing the balls, because that's a very important tournament, but it shows that there's just no way somebody could mess with it knowingly. This last section, next steps, USBC will publish a full report with data from US Open hardness test no later than March. The report will be used by USBC to take a fresh look at hardness standards test and how best to apply it to competition rules. The PBA and ball manufacturers will be invited to provide input into the process. That's important, because what we're talking about with might impact balls that are in flight, going to be made, and so if specifications change, the ball manufacturers have to have enough lead-off time to make those changes. And then, of course, it also, one more bullet point, in the meantime, all balls on the USBC approved ball list remain approved for USBC competition unless an individual ball measures below the minimum 68D specification when tested in accordance with the field test process in the USBC equipment specifications manual. Translation, basically everything is all good unless you show up to a tournament and they test your ball and it tests out of specification, then that ball will be removed from competition. So I think the real big question here is, okay, if this is happening to urethane balls, is it also happening to other balls? And is this research process going to, be expanded to reactive resin balls, right? There is an argument to be made that, okay, well, how big is the issue and what is the USBC doing to take a look at this and get it under control? So really interested in hearing what your comments are about this. What do you think? Drop me a comment. Let me know. Let's continue the conversation. More updates are coming. And until then, bow well.